Days after USC reached a $215 million settlement for victims in the George Tyndall case, we'll hear stories from some of them who say their fight is not over.
Thousands of Central American immigrants have crossed the border into Mexico on their way to the U.S. President Trump is promising a firm response.
And two former Florida congressmen hosted a town hall at USC today on how to best deal with gridlock in Washington.
Annenberg TV News is next.
Live from USC, you're watching Annenberg TV News.
Victims affected by the George Tyndall abuse case are speaking out. Good evening, I'm Trevor Sahaki.
And I'm Nikki Walker. Questions remain about the $250 million settlement USC announced days ago to compensate victims of Dr. George Tyndall. Annenberg Media's Taylor Elliott spoke to some women who say the story isn't over yet.
On Friday, USC announced it had reached an agreement with 3 law firms representing victims of a federal class action suit who said they were abused by the former doctor at Engelman Student Health Center. The deal must be approved by a U.S. district judge. Brennan Heil is one survivor whose case against the university is still open.
So USC hasn't actually done anything for me at this point. At least they're doing something. At least they're starting to budge.
Here's how the settlement breaks down. Any patient of Dr. Tyndall can receive $2,500, and anyone willing to publicly testify to the abuse is eligible to receive upwards of $250,000. But some students don't think this is enough.
Power, the ability to control their own lives, the ability to see a doctor, the ability to feel comfortable in their own skin, trust. Like, there's so many things that you don't even realize that are compiling on, and like, how much is that worth? Can you put a number on that? I don't know.
One survivor who chose not to take the settlement is still unhappy with the university's response.
The fact that the issues aren't being addressed of when and why things happened the way they did is really an insult to the women in the case.
In a letter to the USC community, interim president Wanda Austin said, "Many sweeping changes have been made, and we continue to work every day to prevent all forms of misconduct on our campus, to provide outstanding care to all students, and to ensure we have policies and procedures that prioritize respect for our students and our entire university community." Austin also told Annenberg Media the money for the settlement will not come from tuition or donations. For Annenberg Media, I'm Taylor Elliott.
Power has been restored to all buildings on the University Park campus after an outage this morning. According to USC, approximately 20 buildings were affected after a safety feature was tripped at the Davidson Conference Center. Generators were deployed to supply power to emergency equipment like fire alarms and emergency lighting. Some faculty and students were affected by the outage.
Norris is where some of the larger film classes occur, so I don't know what the schedule for today is, but it would offset the most amount of cinema students at once.
My suite mates definitely felt a lot more because they were studying. So they were up doing like math homework and their pre-labs, so they were a little more annoyed about it.
Also, the outage is still unknown. No damages or major issues have been reported by DPS or information technology.
The USC Price School of Public Policy addressed the issue of partisanship among young voters this morning in its latest town hall meeting.
After November, sometime in the next 6 to 8 months, we're going to see a national conversation about either a third party or independent lane. We're going to see a leader emerge.
Two former congressmen believe that we are in a generational moment in partisan politics.
These are the voices that can transform the next decade, and we're seeing a very healthy debate, and we're seeing high levels of involvement now.
Some say the problem is what's called confirmation bias. We seek out media that supports our point of view. Social media makes it even worse, especially with young voters.
Being influenced and becoming more rigid in their views because they're seeing one sort of stream of events and from one side of the aisle, and they're in this echo chamber with their friends and colleagues.
And that echo chamber can drown out any third-party voices.
Being a libertarian looking in, I definitely would have appreciated having more libertarian voice represented in that. But at the same time, I think places like USC are doing the right thing. These are places where dialogue is actually happening.
And Murphy agrees that dialogue is the solution to the partisan divide.
really talk about the facts, like really get to the bottom of it. It might be completely contrarian view to what you thought yesterday, but you learned something along the way.
According to the Pew Research Center, 44% of millennials, more than any other generation, call themselves independents. Maybe they're tired of all the fighting between Republicans and Democrats. For Annenberg Media, I'm Laurel Vibitson.
A caravan of thousands of Honduran migrants from San Pedro Sula have crossed the Mexican border and are seeking refuge in the U.S. Immigration experts believe this group of men, women, and children left because of political turmoil. Some caravanners point to low wages, unemployment, and fear of gang violence that drove them from Honduras. President Trump warned on Twitter that he would shut down the southwest border of the U.S. if Mexico didn't take action.
It's a horrible thing, and it's a lot bigger than 5,000 people. And we got to stop them at the border. And unfortunately, you look at the countries, they have not done their job. Unfortunately, they have not done their job.
Trump is also threatening to withhold or substantially reduce foreign aid given to Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador because of their inability to stop their citizens from fleeing.
The New York Times uncovered a recent memo that redefines gender. The memo from the Department of Health and Human Services describes it as, quote, a person's status as male or female based on immutable biological traits identifiable by or before birth. This rolls back Obama-era policies that allowed people to choose their gender. Trans Americans and allies are fighting back. LGBTQ activists chanted outside the White House, "We will not be erased." Americans took to social media to voice their opposition to the proposal. Within hours, the hashtag "won't be erased" was trending on Twitter. In 2017, the Department of Justice and Education withdrew school guidelines on protections for transgender students. Earlier this year, the Department of Health and Human Services proposed a rule that backed religious refusals of health care to transgender people. The Trump administration also proposed a ban on transgender military service, which has not been implemented. The Justice Department has declined to comment about the proposal. If it determines the change is legal, the proposal will be enforced under Title IX.
The midterm elections are approaching, and many companies are taking action to ensure that their employees vote. One particular restaurant chain is on the forefront of this trend. The Mediterranean restaurant Cava is giving its employees 2 hours of paid leave on November 6th to vote. Cava employees, including those at the USC Village location, will be able to take these 2 hours at the beginning or end of their shifts. Customers from USC's Cava support the idea.
I think it's a great opportunity for a business to set aside this time in someone's work hours where they normally avoid voting, and I think it's going to help bring the voter population back to the central heart of America's opinion.
Cava's decision to give paid leave will allow its 1,800 employees in 10 states to vote in person on Election Day. Now, today is a very important day for all you would-be voters out there.
Our political anchor, Albert Chien, has more on what you need to know about making sure your vote counts.
Thanks, Nikki. Today is the last day to register to vote in California for the midterm election. You have less than 7 hours to register online. With just over 2 weeks to go, it is important to know the ways you can vote. If you're unable to vote on Election Day, here are some alternative ways to cast your ballot. One method is early voting. There are 3 locations near USC where you can vote early. West LA College, located about 10 miles west of USC. East Los Angeles Library on East 3rd Street. And Willowbrook Library on Wilmington Avenue. Voting is open during the weekends of October 27th and November 3rd, between the hours of 8 a.m. and 4 p.m., with California reaching a record high of 19 million registered voters. We talked to a political expert on the importance of voting in this election.
Casting your ballot in California is really critical. In addition to that, the midterm elections are incredibly competitive this year because Democrats are attempting to win back control of the U.S. House. A number of their most competitive races are right here in Southern California, several in Orange County, one in Los Angeles County, and so how these elections are decided are likely to actually send you a signal of who is going to control the House.
You may also mail in your ballot anytime up until Election Day. Over 500,000 people have already cast in their ballots for the midterms. Back to you, Trevor and Nikki.
Thank you, Albert. A new study out of Stanford shows how virtual reality can help people empathize. Faculty and students at USC are using their VR skills to do just that.
A new arts academy in South Central LA is doing its part to educate troubled students.
The LA River in Studio City may be receiving a massive upgrade. We'll be right back.
We'd do anything for kids. Yet 1 in 5 children in the U.S. struggle with hunger. Help end childhood hunger near you. Learn how at feedingamerica.org.
Got a quarter?
A stretch of the LA River in Studio City is about to get a makeover, a $150,000 upgrade for bike riders and pedestrians.
So this money is targeted to this segment that we're standing on. It'll be the stretch between Whitsett and Laurel Canyon along the river, and it will mainly be used for landscaping, maintenance, aesthetic improvements along the way. And it'll make a big difference. I think it'll be that much more attractive of a location.
The goal of the project is to make this area more beautiful with new landscaping and to also make it look and feel safer for the community.
Part of the reason why this area probably doesn't get as much foot traffic also is because maybe of a sense of not feeling as safe by some of the residents and some folks that like to recreate. So we're going to be working closely with LASA as well to make sure that they're providing the services they need as well.
The money for the Studio City River Greenway project is provided by a grant from the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy.
A new study says virtual reality can inspire empathy. Annenberg Media's Madeline Audley looked at VR and what it can do for telling stories.
New Stanford University research says virtual reality is more than just a fun toy.
VR is a really good medium to take the perspective of others because you're literally put into their environment.
The study asked participants to imagine what it's like to become homeless. Some just had to think about it. Others used a computer simulation. A final group used a virtual reality headset.
More participants in the VR condition sign petitions supporting affordable housing than participants that just use their imagination alone.
She says the group using VR developed longer-lasting compassion towards the homeless.
There's that old saying, put yourself in other people's shoes. With VR, I can put you into other people's bodies.
This video isn't VR. It's 360. But it is what VR looks like when you have a headset on. Raja Venkatapatimani produced this piece at the border as part of Annenberg's VR lab. He says the technology works because you can't see anything else.
When you watch a 2D video, there's every chance that, for people to get distracted. But when you're watching something in, say, a VR, you're completely immersed, and so you have undivided attention.
These results may be promising, but VR is not cheap. These headsets can cost several $100s, which Venkatapatimani acknowledges can hold VR back.
You're reaching only a very specific audience, and you're not able to cater to a whole mass population.
For that reason, at least for now, VR's benefits might still be confined to a select few. For Annenberg Media, I'm Madeline Audley.
Just blocks away from USC, one high school is experimenting with a new way to convince troubled students to stay in school. Natalie Ruxton spoke with students and teachers about this special program.
The graduation rate for California high schools like this one is only 37%.
Most of the students that are in Central High School Tri-C are potential dropouts. Students who may be experiencing homelessness or are in group homes. Some have some mental health issues, others are on probation.
The Central Continuation High School is using art to keep these students in school.
School has felt very disconnected for these youth. This program is a way to kind of connect real-world things to the arts.
Today was the official launch of the Design and Media Arts Academy, a partnership between LAUSD and Artworks LA. In addition to traditional academic subjects, students received 2 hours of daily art class.
Sometimes when I feel emotional, I like to draw my feelings out. It's just inspired me more to express my feelings on something.
Well, we cover all the arts. Right now, we're using images and video and voiceover and music to tell students stories about what is homelessness.
Jillian Rosales knows what it's like to be homeless.
We've been doing different projects to touch on it. The face mask was one of the things that really touched me. On the outside, it's like a happy person, peace, love, and happiness. And on the inside, it shows like all the things that I've been through, like abuse and different things that my parents have kicked me out of the house for.
Art and music may help students after they graduate.
My dream career is to be an engineer. I like to do music, and nobody has ever told me that doing music and making music was engineering.
The students' work will be on display next month at USC School for Architecture. For Annenberg Media, I'm Natalie Ruxton.
Thank you, Natalie. Well, it seems like the weather's hot one day and then cold the next.
It's definitely been confusing, but our weather anchor Draco Guan has more. Draco?
Hey guys, it's definitely a seasonal start to the week. The air will be much drier to the end of the week with no rain over the next 7 days. Temperatures stay cooler at 70s today. And as for tomorrow, let's go look at the inland empire. It's gonna be 80s, and even Big Bear is 60s. It's quite warm and sunny because of the onshore wind. As for the Semi Valley, it's 81 degree, and Malibu is 73 degree. As for our downtown LA, it's 78 in the USC, and Long Beach 72, Glendale 84. So as start from the Wednesday, let's look at the 5-day forecast. Start from the Wednesday, a developing ridge of the high pressure is pushing in and heat up the entire Southern California. We'll be watching for the dry air and also possibility of the high fire risk. That's all for today's weather forecast. Back to you.
Thank you, Draco. Half of new guitar players in the U.S. are female, according to a recent study by guitar manufacturer Fender. Nick Stubis, a guitar professor from the Thornton School of Music, says he's hoping to see more female guitarists in years to come.
The study, I think, is dealing with amateur guitar players. So at the educational level, I don't see the numbers translating yet. At the current time, still see more males applying for college programs studying the guitar.
Female guitar students on campus say they see a lot more guys playing guitar than women. Brooke Thames grew up playing guitar, and she says there weren't a lot of female role models.
I can't pinpoint a female artist who played guitar that really inspired me. They all play piano, like coincidentally. Yeah, I think of more males. I think more of like Ed Sheeran and people like that.
Fender's CEO said rising pop artists in a different cultural context are changing the way the guitar is being used. USC football lost this weekend, but they almost lost even more than that.
Let's go to our sports anchor Keita Mulder to give us the latest on a complicated QB situation.
Nikki and Trevor, losing is already hard enough, but losing both of your top quarterbacks, now that is tough. Coming up, I'll give you the latest on the health of the Trojans' aerial attack. We also tip our caps to a USC freshman who achieved excellence this past weekend. And from the pitch at McAllister Field to the first pitch of the World Series, the Dodgers are in Boston and take on the Red Sox. Annenberg TV Sports is next.
Recently, our country has witnessed catastrophic devastation. Hurricanes and flooding have upended lives and livelihoods.
Across this great country, Americans have answered the call.
That special calling that compels us when others are down, to step up and do whatever it takes.
America's at her best when, against all odds, we come together and lift each other up.
Please donate to oneamericaappeal.org. America needs you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Listen, I realize that I'm not perfect, but it all really started to change because you judge me for having a problem. No one is going to know that I need help. I need help. I know that no one is going to judge me for having a problem. I realize that I'm not perfect, but it all really started to change because you listen.
Bye-bye.
Hi. Hoping for a crisp breeze to help keep you alert. Oh, he took a sip of water too. That'll probably help. You were probably gonna turn down the radio too, so you could focus, right?
Probably okay isn't okay.
Right?
If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
I think the water line is what really drove it home. I blew on him.
While Halloween might be over a week away, things were still scary for USC football on Saturday night as both starting quarterback JT Daniels and backup Matt Fink sustained injuries in a 41-28 loss to Utah. After Daniels sustained a concussion in the fourth quarter, backup Matt Fink came in and led the Trojans to 2 touchdowns, including Fink's first TD pass of his career to Tyler Petit. That throw was followed up by a 12-yard touchdown run from the shifty Vavai Malapei that came just plays after Fink sustained cracked ribs. Head coach Clay Helton announced last night that third-string Jack Sears would be the starter for Saturday's home game against Arizona State. Reports released today, however, reveal that Daniels passed initial concussion protocol and could make a start if he clears his remaining tests. Regardless of the quarterback, the 4-3 USC Trojans will be back home this Saturday to take on the 3-4 Arizona State Sun Devils in a battle for the Pac-12 South that is still up for grabs. USC forward, meanwhile, Penelope Hawking might need a bigger closet. In USC's second straight 5-0 victory, the freshman phenom netted her first career hat trick as the number 2 ranked Trojans stomped all over Oregon and Oregon State. Senior forward Leah Pruitt added 2 goals of her own and yet another clean sheet from goalkeeper Kaylee Collins and the USC defense. Ironically enough, while Pruitt scored twice, the USC defense only allowed 2 shots. Head coach Kadani McAlpine spoke with us after the game about his takeaways from a dominating weekend.
We definitely have been talking about a lot our on-goal percentage. And that, to me, is the difference in winning and losing the big games. And so to see them put the ball on frame and put it in the back of the net, win for us for the weekend for sure.
The women of Troy shot even more balls on net against the Ducks, including 3 that went into the back of the net from Penelope Hawking. Hawking talked with Annenberg Media after the game about how those 3 goals came so easily.
I mean, I really wanted the hat trick, and I saw the keeper and I saw that she was really, she was covering the near post, so I knew the only way I was gonna score was just to get it over her head and just put the shot on goal, really. And Nat played a really good ball in, and it was like a perfect ball, so I just put it right over her and scored.
The women of Troy will now travel to Colorado to battle the number 15 ranked Buffs. Now we transition from the green of McAllister Field to the greens of USC women's golf. Sam Scalbania is here to swing away. Sam, what do you got for us?
Thanks, Keith. Well, USC golf is dominating the links right now. The women took home their second win in 3 tournaments yesterday in Stanford. But not to be outdone, the men took home their first title of the year in Georgia yesterday as well. For the men, senior stud Justin Sutt did what he does best. Win. The new world #1 amateur would not be denied this weekend, taking first place by 4 strokes. The women of Troy have made it look very easy this season. This weekend was no different. Trojans dominate, winning by 15 strokes over second place Stanford, and 4 of 5 Trojans finished in the top 10, and the squad cruised to team victory. The women will look for their 3rd win in a row this week at the highly coveted East Lake Cup in Georgia with a star-studded cast of other collegiate teams. The men will try to keep their momentum going to their last tournament of the year until February of 2019. While both teams will likely be ranked in the top 5 after their wins yesterday, it really is a wonderful time for Trojan golf right now. Keith, back to you.
Thanks so much, Sam. From athletes to automobiles, sometimes things can go from 0 to 100 real quick. The same can be said about USC water polo player Marko Vavic, who netted his 100th goal this Sunday in a 17-6 win over number 6 Pepperdine. Southern Cal started scoring off early with 2 goals apiece from Vavic, Sawyer Rhodes, and Slam Slobodian. We also talked to former fellow two-goal scorer Jakob Mersep, as well as Sam Krunog, about how the team can improve and how one loss is a reminder that this team is not invincible.
I think individually I could definitely try to be a little more consistent, and team-wise we need to improve our certainly front court offense, defense, and transition defense. Those are our main points.
We never ever look in the past, except for one game. I feel like the Stanford loss that we had at their pool really motivates us every single day, and it proved to us that we are beatable, and that just makes us work twice as hard.
The boys in blue are back to the World Series. After a big 5-1 Game 7 win over the Milwaukee Brewers in the NLCS on Saturday, the Dodgers are now in Boston to prepare for the Red Sox. Chris Taylor, his exceptional glove, and the champagne-soaked Dodgers arrived in Boston today to prepare for tomorrow's Game 1 against the Red Sox. The series could be one for the ages, and the first game at Dodger Stadium is Game 3 on Friday. Guys, also got a shout out Caitlin Tice as well as Marta Chisla. Big wins for USC women's swim and dive there at Utah.
Awesome. That's fantastic.
So great.
I hope our quarterbacks get better soon, though.
Yeah, very true.
Really am looking out for them already. Well, thank you so much, Keith.
Thanks, Keith.
Elon Musk has announced the Boring Company's first underground tunnel is almost complete.
Located in Hawthorne, the tunnel provides hope for new innovations in LA transportation.
Hey guys, Danny Trejo here. There was going to be a whole song and dance routine about how you should wait your turn to enter the train. But they got me, Danny Trejo, to talk to you instead. Look, when you don't wait your turn to enter the train, it's rude and potentially dangerous. And believe me, I know a thing or two about rude and dangerous. I'm Danny Trejo. Don't be like rude, dude. Be kind, like super kind. Excuse me.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. As it turns out, we have very similar personalities. And this cat makes me make art because he's always motivating me to take pictures of him, to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. It's just that simple. Well, he's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Elon Musk announced on Twitter today that his Boring Company will open its first test tunnel on December 10th in Hawthorne, California. It's part of the company's efforts to build a new underground transportation system. This prototype shows what's called a hyperloop. The goal is to alleviate traffic. Musk says the test tunnel is the first step toward making the plan a reality, but some USA students are skeptical.
I don't have too high of expectations. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done in this, regulatory-wise, before anything close to what his dreams are really going to be realized.
I think the point of the test tunnel is really just to kind of prove to cities and future investors that the Boring Company knows what they're doing and that they can compete with these old school tunneling companies.
Musk tweeted that the public can take free rides in the test tunnel on December 11th.
Thanks for watching Annenberg TV News. From everyone at Annenberg Media, I'm Nikki Walker.
And I'm Trevor Sahaki. You can watch us on the web at uscannenbergmedia.com. Have a good night.